people that do just catch and release, and in their mind they're basically doing this good ethical thing. And then there's people like me who I really don't do that. I'm fishing to eat fish. If I don't want to eat fish, I don't fish, right? Yesterday I caught 3 trout. That's the only trout I caught. I actually lost one. I guess I had 4 on, but I only got 3 of them in. But yesterday I caught 3 trout, and then I ate them, right? And that's the only thing I caught. It was the only fish I bothered that day, right? You know, if I'd spent a long time fishing and I was doing catch and release, I might have been able to catch maybe 20 trout, right? But I really didn't have time for that. You know, I was basically setting up my camp, and I just wanted to catch a few fish for a nice meal because I usually travel pretty light. I usually just bring a small pack of like noodles, like not Mr. Noodles, but like the sort of fancy Asian ones with Asian writing on them. They usually taste better, and they got little dried vegetables and stuff in them. I always bring that as a source of food, but that's not a lot, right? Maybe 500 calories. So I always want some flesh with that meal, right? But anyway, so let's speak about this for a minute here, because for me, the ethical, if you really care about fish, the well-being of fish, the ethical thing to do is leave them alone. Leave them alone and do everything you can to preserve and maintain their habitat in its best form. Now, for me, catch and eat, if you basically I like eating fish. I only fish for fish I like to eat. Like, I'm not a big fan of smallmouth bass. I like trout better, so I usually just fish for trout. Sometimes I will go bass fishing with my kids because they're easier to catch, right? So they can have success. But then we bring them home and we, you know, eat them, right? Clean them up and eat them, right? We don't just catch and let them go. So yes, it's a cruel thing to do, to catch something and kill it. But I also think just catching fish is cruel. Right? I mean, it's all cruel. It's all cruelty, right? I mean, human beings kill animals and eat them, right? We're omnivores. That's the thing we do. But think about the notion of catch and release. You're putting some sort of artificial lure, usually they use artificial stuff, with a hook on it, out in the water. You're hooking a living thing in the face, and then you're engaging it in a life and death struggle for a protracted amount of time, right? Because usually when you're angling, sport angling, it's all about the fight, right? So you're actually going to fight it for a long time, right? Sometimes the fight can be so taxing on the fish. If you watch the fishing shows, right, they have to sort of revive the fish because it's so spent, right? Because they can't recover like warm-blooded animals, cold-blooded animals. They have limited energy. So a biologist friend of mine who studies this sort of stuff told me that catch and release kills, I can't remember the number, but it was something like 10%. It might have been 8%. Or it might have been higher. It's 8 or 10 or 12, something like that. I don't know why I remember it that way. A percentage of catch and release fish die anyway. Die from infections, die from exhaustion. The fact that they were caught makes them easy for other things to kill, right? Makes them sort of weak and vulnerable. They're bleeding, they draw their predators. They're a bit dazed. Maybe some osprey can come swoop, or a kingfisher can swoop down into the sky and pick them off, right? So catch and release still kills fish, right? And also when you're doing catch and release, you tend to catch a lot more fish, right? When I go fishing, I was like, I need 3 fish for a meal, or 2 big fish, or 4 small fish, right? I need a meal and eat about this much, you know, whatever that is, half a pound of fish or something like that. I have a certain amount of flesh that I desire for the meal. Once I've caught the amount of, okay, I got enough fish to eat now, I'm done fishing, right? Whereas if I was fishing for just the pleasure of fishing and doing catch and release, I might spend half a day fishing and catching a lot of fish and letting them go. It might be the case that I just, as a byproduct of that entertainment, 3 fish die anyway, because a proportion of catch and release fish die. Even if you've revived it and all that sort of stuff, they still die. I mean, I used to do a lot of striper angling when I lived in a different part of the province, and I didn't have kids, right? I could do a lot. You can do a lot of fishing when you don't have kids. So, anyway, there's a rule for striped bass where you can only keep them if they're about, it's like 26 3/4 inch long. I think that's the length. 67 centimeters or something like that. It's 2 feet, a little bit more than 2 feet. I think it's 20. The number I have in my head is 27 inches long. All my bass rods, I have a piece of electrical tape at that length, so I know if it's over that length, you can keep it. If it's under that length, you have to let it go. So a lot of striped bass are released because the vast majority of them are smaller than that size, right? So if you're fishing on a river and there's some guys upstream, it's always the case that you're fishing and you'll see a perfectly good 22-inch striped bass floating down the river, right? Floating down the river because somebody caught it and released it and it died anyway, right? Right? Or as I said before, the thing's a bit dazed and some eagle can just swoop down out of the sky because it hasn't got its, I mean, you've got to think about the natural world where fish live. It's not like our world, right? In the world of fish, everything eats everything. Big fish eat smaller fish eat smaller fish, and those fish eat insects, right? It's basically predators all the way down, right? So when you're releasing a fish, you're injuring a fish and tiring out a fish, and then you're releasing it into a completely harsh, unforgiving world where everything eats everything. Right there, you're not doing the good thing you think you're doing, right? Because you're weakening this thing you like and releasing it to a harsh, unforgiving environment where everything eats everything. But also, you're doing all of that for fun, right? You're angling, which is you're fishing for pleasure, right? This whole thing, hooking it in the face and bringing it in and letting it go, that's entertainment. It's fun, right? So I question the ethics of that, right? I mean, I'm not judging here. Okay, I don't care what you do. Do whatever you want to do. I'm not telling anyone what to do. I'm just talking through the different sides of the argument. Number one, you're still killing fish if you're a catch and release angler. Number two, I question the ethics of just catching and releasing fish for fun, given that the activity, if you step back, imagine you're an alien from another planet that doesn't eat from an alien species that is just vegan or something like that, right? What is that guy doing? He's hooking that animal in the face and then engaging in a life and death struggle and then, letting it go. I remember there was one guy on TV who used to kiss the fish. Can't remember the name of the guy. Idiot anyway, but he'd catch a bass. It was always catching bass, which is the most easiest thing in the world to catch. Anyway, he'd be catching bass and then he'd kiss it. It's like, I mean, what you're doing to that bass is something that would happen in like a concentration camp, like if you step back and think about it, right? So why are you kissing this thing? This bass hates you. You're not his friend. Look what you just did to it, right? So anyway, that's the other side of it. Do I think I'm doing a good thing by catching and killing and eating fish? I don't analyze it that way, right? I'm a human being and I want to eat, and fish are one of the things human beings eat. And there is no kind way to eat a living thing. It's just a thing human beings do. Human beings are omnivores. I'm an omnivore. Right? So when I want to eat fish, which there's a narrow window of time, May, June. April, May, June is when trout are available. I love eating trout. I love frying them in bacon fat from a dead pig, right? So for a couple months of the year, I might eat, a dozen or more trout. More if I have a really good day and bring some home to my family. Over the course of the season, I might eat 1 or 2 dozen trout, and then I'm done for the year. I leave the trout alone, right? And any initiative to save a river, fix a river, I'm in. I'll donate. I'll give you my time. I'll give my money because I want the trout to do well because I like eating them, right? So anyway, that's how I look at it. I mean, yes, it is. Is it cruel to catch and kill and eat something? Absolutely. I wouldn't want anything to catch and kill and eat me. But in nature, that's how everything works. Everything eats everything, unless it's a herbivore. And the herbivores are eaten by the omnivores and the carnivores, right? That's just, it's nature. It's by catching and eating something, you're engaging in nature, in my opinion. You're doing the same thing all the other animals are doing. So yes, if you analyze the acts, all the acts are cruel, but I don't know if it's in the same category as other cruel things, because I mean, everybody goes to the store and buys meat and eats it, right? I mean, if you're an omnivore or a carnivore, you're killing things all the time. I guess one other thing is, like, you're killing when you catch and kill a fish, you're killing something that was going to die, right? Again, the river, the lake, is a predatory environment. Everything eats everything. It's not like any of the fish I've killed were going to, live a long life, retire, go to Europe, enjoy their golden years, and then, die surrounded by their family with everyone telling them they love them and sort of drift off to sleep. That's not going to happen, right? Every fish in this river is going to die a horrible death, right? Something is going to eat it eventually, even if it gets sick. It's not going to get sick and die. It's going to get sick and something's going to kill it, right? It's just, that's how it works, right? Everything eats everything. So when I come and go fishing and I catch a fish and kill it and eat it, I'm doing exactly what's happening anyway. Everything eats everything. There's nothing in nature, at least in the nature here, that just catches fish for fun. And an eagle wouldn't practice, wouldn't catch and release 20 trout. What's the point of that? Nothing doing that, right? I think, cats may play with mice sometimes, but that's house cats. And house cats are sort of like insane versions of wild cats, right? They're not the same, right? So, they're domesticated, so they're just like us humans. We're domesticated, so we kind of act in weird ways compared to wild things, right? But anyway, I'm going off in 1,000 different directions. I think I've fleshed out both the sides of the argument. I don't think I'm better or worse than a person that does catch and release, but I certainly don't think the person that does catch and release is more ethical than me. Not at all. So anyway, that's my thoughts on the topic. Hope you found it interesting. If you did, please like, share, subscribe, and until next time, enjoy the outdoors on the cheap. Thanks for watching.